remind everybody that this is being broadcast live on the internet. And so we ask that you, as you speak clearly and loud. And those who address the commission at the podium, please speak carefully into the microphone, so that the thousands who are watching us on the internet around the world will be well informed of what we're doing. So, and by the way, if you want to find us on the internet, you can go to youtube.com/UtahDOT. And there should be a link on that landing page, and we can be found on the internet. Or if you can't sleep at night and need to go back and review commission meetings, you can go there and find the archive. So we welcome you here to our meeting today. One of the things we want to do as we get started is to make introductions of the commission and those who are here representing UDOT and other organizations. And then we will move into the official business of the commission. So Gail, let's start with you at that end and have the introductions of the commission and then UDOT staff.
My name's Gail McCartney. I live in Uinta County. I'm a commissioner at large. I'm the new commissioner. I'm the youngest in tenure. Yes, it's been over a year, so.
I'm Dan McConkey. I'm a commissioner at large. I reside in Washington County.
Most of the time.
Yep. Except when I'm here.
That's right. May Colbrook, Region 2, Salt Lake Summit, Ventura.
Kent Millington, Region 3, from Juab to Daggett counties across the central part of the state.
Wayne Barlow, Region 1, the 6th northernmost counties in the state.
Nagi still from sunny St. George, especially today. With a hint of cold. From St. George, representing 14 remaining counties and Region 4.
We also want to acknowledge Heather Barthold, our assistant here in the commission, that makes this whole thing work for us. We appreciate that. Carlos?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Carlos Braceras, Executive Director of the UDOT.
Shay Marshall, Deputy Director of UDOT.
For that.
Matt Allred, Internal Communications Manager for UDOT.
Joe Walker, Communications UDOT.
Jason Davis, Operations.
Randy Clark, Project Development.
Nathan Lee, Program Development.
Chris Peterson, Region 1.
Jeff Harris, UDOT Planning.
Bill Lawrence, UDOT Program.
Bob Hunley, State Coordinator.
Kurt Thornock, Region 4.
Brian Adams, Region 2.
Lisa.
Lisa Sundell, Region 2 Project Manager.
Linda Hall, Legislative Director. Kathy Nance, UDOT Structures.
John Gleason, UDOT Communications.
Diana Meyer,
No. Becky.
Any others? We certainly want to recognize our partners from the FHWA here. Ivan Marrero, I guess you're the division administrator, region, whatever it is, and Brigitte Mandel, the assistant, and we appreciate having both of them here. Welcome back, Ivan, after several months on another assignment. It's good to have you back here. We'll hear from him later. Are there any elected public officials with us today? I didn't see any and wasn't told of any, so I guess not. Now, let's move into our official agenda. The first item is for an approval of the minutes. Your motion.
Second.
Now, is that motion and second for both of the meetings that we held, the Thursday and the Friday meetings in Moab?
Should be.
Okay, we'll count it as such.
And the second is likewise.
All right. Any further discussion about the two meetings in the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Now we have as our second item on the agenda, any who would like to speak to the commission from the public. We have public comments at this time that would like to address the commission. Is there anyone here that...
Speak now or hold your peace forever.
Well, at least until next month. All right, seeing none, we'll keep moving forward. Our third item is,
Mr. Chairman, I'm
Please,
sorry to interrupt,
Carlos.
but just maybe to remind those in the audience and out there, how many viewers do we have, Matt?
There's two right now.
Both our viewers.
was that 2,000?
That, we went through quite a bit of information yesterday in the workshop, and there is a location on the webpage there where they can see that information, the commission webpage for the workshop, but as well as to offer comments on what they've seen, if there's items that we need to consider in the decision-making process. I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that.
Yes, now, that's on, let's see if I get this right, UDOT.gov. Utah.gov, and then there should be a link to the commission page.
Yes, on the left side, quick links, Transportation Commission.
And you should be able to click on that link, and then there will be a report of the 2016 STIC workshop, the entire book that we went through yesterday, and comments, or you can make comments on the web. So we appreciate any comments we get back.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Let's proceed with our UDOT scoreboard. Randy, are you first up?
Thank you, Commissioners, for the opportunity to talk just briefly about our construction program. Since the last commission meeting, which was March 9th, we've advertised a total of 12 projects for around $60 million. Forgot I had to do this myself. So, you sign. So those projects, you can see that we've listed projects, or we've advertised projects in every region. The majority of those projects are preservation type projects that will be completed this summer as part of our preservation workload that we have. As far as our regular charts and graphs, you can see we've been on a advertising and awarding frenzy, which we usually do this time of the year to get our projects advertised and out to our contractors. We have 129 current projects that have been advertised and are out for construction. We have a total of about $556 million in those contracts that's left to be paid out to our contractors for the work that will happen, and we kind of see that holding fairly steady throughout this construction season. As you can see, our contractor payments by month, though, in that middle chart on the left, is pretty low, just because you can imagine there's probably no payments being made today. No work's going on, and that's been pretty typical, but we expect that to really ramp up as we move forward here, as we go forward throughout this next month. Our projects are right on schedule, as you can see. We really show that we're in good schedule too, and that's really easy when there's not a lot of work going on. So we expect that to probably fall back a little bit too as we get started, but right now everything looks great. And anyway, I'll leave it at that. I think all the other charts are pretty self-explanatory and they stay the same, or not a lot of difference, since there's not a lot going on right now. Any questions?
Any questions for Randy?
Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa?
Morning, Commission.
Good morning.
I just hope we're not so aggressive on the agenda so far that my viewers haven't had a chance to chime in, to log on yet, so.
Is your mom watching?
I haven't told her.
That'd be good, Mark.
So that's about as light as this conversation is going to get. As you can see in your presentation materials, at the end of March, we were at 41 fatalities for the year versus 52 last year, and I was feeling pretty, I don't know if I could use the word positive, but it was an indication that we were kind of reversing that trend that we'd seen the previous couple of years, and maybe we were heading in the right direction of lowering these fatalities. We had no bike fatalities at this time, And so I sent an email out to a lot of our safety folks telling them how encouraged I was about the direction we were headed. And then we had the next 1.5 weeks that have just been horrendous. And now we have 2 bike fatalities.
Two
Since
little kids this week.
we had a lady out in the west part of the valley here, and then we had a young child just recently. And the young child, that all of these fatalities are horrific. But this uptick recently of young children under 10 that we've seen this year is starting to get to me a little bit. And I'm not sure how we're going to address it. I think it's just one of those things of awareness that the weather, today's an exception, but we've been getting that warmer weather, and we see this quite typically as the weather warms up and kids are starting, the spring fever's here, and they're getting out and running around, and they're just so happy to be outside. And I think it falls upon all of us to keep an eye out on our children and look out for other children at this time of the year and throughout the whole year. But yeah, I went from a fairly decent feeling that we were making progress to our boards this morning to show 54 fatalities for the year. So we're already 13 into April, more than we had at the end of March. So not the direction we want to be going. As you kind of go down here through the charts, and I think I'm going to try to figure out a way to go from 12 to like 3 on this. But probably still present or give the information to the commission so that they can dig as deep as they'd like, but kind of wrap it up a little bit. So you can see that we had 15 in January, 15 in February, 11 in March, and currently we're sitting at 13 in April. Our rate in March was quite low, 0.44, which is, another good indication we're doing the right things. As I mentioned before, our PEDs have been much higher than we'd like. We're again rolling out that heads up program we talked about the last commission meeting. That's going to focus on our vulnerable users, our bikes, our PEDs, our motorcycles, trying to make sure people are watching out for them. We're also putting together different things as far as the distracted driving. You can't but help as you drive around anymore notice people doing things they shouldn't be doing in a car. It went from the humorous people reading newspapers and putting on makeup and so forth to the not so humorous of everybody's got a cell phone in their hand while they're driving. And I think it's going to be one of those culture things. We just had the end of our safety summit the last 2 days, and we had a speaker come in there and talk about the culture and how the culture of the country is what affects people's behaviors, and how it used to be that smoking was very acceptable practice. People smoked in restaurants and people smoked on airplanes, and it was just the norm. And you dealt with the smoke. If you weren't a smoker, the smoke was around you. And then that became unacceptable as a culture for them to influence you with their smoke. If they chose to smoke, that was their choice. We're seeing a similar thing with the cell phones and the distracted driving, and that their choices are influencing you because they're not paying attention, they're causing accidents, and that needs to become unacceptable in our culture.
Don't we have statute now, a law against handheld phone when you're driving?
We do.
What's UHP statistics? Are they making a lot of arrests, citations for that?
I haven't seen a lot. It's still one of those things that's difficult to prove because you can use them, you just can't do the operations. So you can answer a phone call.
Hands-free.
Right.
And you can't dial or.
Yeah. But if somebody's holding the thing
That's
up
okay.
to
That's
their
okay.
ear, that's pretty
That's okay,
obvious.
yeah.
So it's the operating of the phone versus using the phone that's more or less the difference in law.
You can hold it up on top.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can't have it on that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then you
You can't push the buttons to get it to work.
Yeah, that, I can see why that.
It's,
then is difficult.
I read an article this week in, I believe it was New York, where the law enforcement is, they called it a textilizer, kind of like a breathalyzer, where if you're involved in an accident, they could, this is technology is being proposed, it's not in practice, but they could basically put this technology against your phone, hook it up to your phone some way, and see if you're texting prior to the accident. They wouldn't know what you were texting, they wouldn't know who you were texting, but they'd know that you were operating it prior to the accident. So I challenged Linda, I said the seatbelt law was easy, get this one passed. So, she's not paying attention.
Luckily.
I suspect the legislature thought long and hard about this, but, you know, maybe it should be, just don't, it's gotta be totally hands-free. Otherwise, it's so difficult, it seems to me, for enforcement.
I was in New York several years ago, quite a few years ago, and it was, the person I was riding with was absolutely hands-free. It's like, I'm not getting a ticket. If they see me with the phone in my hand, I'm getting a ticket.
Yeah.
But, you know, I can't say those are the reasons we're having some of these terrible crashes involving young children. I honestly haven't read anything indicating that was the case. But we know that accidents are happening because people are distracted. I mean, that's a fact. So, Commissioner?
A couple of times recently, I've called somebody on the telephone, on their cell phone, and they're in the car, and they're driving, and they're saying to me, I gotta find a place to pull off if we're gonna finish this conversation. And we either arrange to call each other back or something like that. Now, in the rural areas, you can often find a place. I don't know what you do in downtown Salt Lake as far as getting off.
You panic.
You panic? Well, you probably don't.
You hang up instead of arrive at your destination.
When cell
Or you don't
phones-
answer it while you're driving.
Right.
When cell phones first became in use, in the legal profession, it was a big deal because the communications are not attorney-client privilege. They're on the cell phone. And so it doesn't happen like it used to, but a client would call, or I would call a client, and they would say, I'm on my cell phone. I'm not going to talk until I can get to a payphone. But we don't have payphones anymore. Or they would call me from a payphone. They'd stop. But I had a situation one time where a client called me and he says, I don't know if I should tell you this, but I just bugged my wife's phone.
Yeah, well, you shouldn't have told
It was
me.
illegal. And I said, I wish you hadn't told me. Within 30 minutes, one of his wife's friends was down to her place of work and picked up the bug. So what you say on the cell phone can be public pretty quickly. I don't know that a lot of us realize or care, maybe.
Possibly his wife bugged his phone first.
There's a place, I used to travel back and forth to Logan quite often,
We don't
and as
want
you
to
come south and hit 84 around that curve, if I would be on my cell phone, I always got somebody else's telephone conversation. I'd be talking with somebody, and all of a sudden there would be people talking, and I was listening in, and the guy I was talking with wasn't there. So I don't trust phones a lot.
I'm trusting them less and less based off of these numbers, so.
Sow a few seeds of mistrust. Maybe we don't have to have constant communication.
The old party lines in 1950.
Yeah. At least you knew who was listening.
Yeah, you knew the whole neighborhood.
I'm not sure how my presentations go this direction.
We used to have similar problems with hunter safety and young people with lots of accidents, and they make them take hunter safety now before they get a hunting license. Maybe that's an idea.
Well, that's.
Before we get driver's license.
Maybe
That's
explain our new driver program that we do in the high schools, please.
Yeah,
So-
that would be an important step.
So during this, I'll kind of lead into that. So I went to one of the sessions at our safety summit. It was about the graduated license rules and about, we have a program where we go out to the high schools. It's not required by statute. It's if they want us and allow us to go into their classrooms and their driver's ed and do parent nights, and we go there and we talk about these dangers of using cell phones and being distracted and what the laws are concerning teenage drivers and what things they need to follow that are different for the rules that we have to follow as far as the hours of operation, who's in the car, those type of things. It was fairly entertaining. The session I was in, one of our engineers, Mark Taylor, asked the question because they put up some information that said that they couldn't take friends in there until they had this much time and had a driver's license. And he raised his hand and said, well, my son told me that it was okay as long as they were going to a school function that he could take friends with him. And the instructor says, no, that's incorrect. And he was immediately on his phone texting his son saying, you snowballed me, we're having a discussion when I get home tonight. So even folks that are in our profession and deal with this day to day sometimes aren't as educated. And that's our hope when we do these parent nights. And the reason we have these graduated license programs is so that everybody knows, the parents know, the kids know, and that we have hopefully well-informed, well-educated drivers out there on the road. I wish I could point to the kids and their cell phones as being the biggest problem out there, but sometimes I gotta look in the mirror and say I'm part of that problem. And I think we all need to start thinking about that culture change and how this country regards instant communication and versus safety on the roads. So, any other questions?
Questions or comments for Jason?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. A sobering report, for sure. The next item we have, I believe, Carlos, do you want to introduce this repurposing?
Yeah, we could do that. As part of the FAST Act, there was a recognition that earmarking has taken place over the last 20 or so years. And not all of those earmarked funds were utilized on the projects that were intended by Congress. And so Congress this time wanted to provide an opportunity for state DOTs to basically repurpose those state earmarks. And there's some rules around how this can be done, and Jeff is going to talk a little bit about the process that we're going to start to undertake working with our partners to be able to look at what projects we should be bringing back and recommending to the commission. So any of your perspectives you may have on ideas to better engage our partners, we would appreciate that. But that's where we are today. We're going to be looking to bring this back for commission action in September. Jeff will talk about that, so I won't get ahead of him.
Exactly. So I believe last month in the staff update, we brought this to the commission first, and I think the commission asked some questions about where essentially are these dollars at. And so we embarked on an exercise to show that in various different ways. There's a hard copy of this document in your files, and there's also an electronic version. We updated it last night to put a couple links on top. Just real quickly about the key requirements. The funds can be used within a 50-mile radius of any point on a linear project. It's a single point project. Again, it's just 50 miles around that. If it's an area like Holiday receives some funds, then it's a 50-mile buffer around the entire area of Holiday. And so when you look at that hard copy, just understand that these are the potential dollars in any given area. They do not sum to the $37 million because they're counted many times, and I'll kind of show you that. If you click on the link on the web version to the story map, oh, how do I do that? Maybe I do. I just screwed up. You bring up this story map, and what that first page shows you is kind of the buffer analysis. So we drew buffers around each one of those projects. And again, it's an elongated buffer if it's a linear project, and you can click on there. So each one of those buffers, we basically created over 20,000 different polygons of different permutations and combinations of how these dollars are concentrated. And you can see the kind of the heat map. So if you click on just a little polygon like right there, come on. You can see the amount that's in that polygon, and then if you scroll down, you can see all of the old PIN numbers associated with those repurposed dollars, or those dollars on specific projects. You can scroll down, you can see actually which, the project description, et cetera, et cetera. So it really goes into, and you can really see how the money can be spent. And the idea was, okay, where could we concentrate these dollars? So that's one way to look at it. We also looked at it by planning jurisdictions. So as you know, there's 5 planning jurisdictions in the state of Utah, 4 metropolitan areas, and then the UDOT rural area planning. So you can go in and click on it as well and see it by planning jurisdiction. So again, if we wanted to do it by MPO area, by state area, you can go through and you can see that as well. UDOT regions, we also did it by UDOT region, because that was one of the questions asked. So you can go through. Again, these dollar amounts don't sum because they're counted multiple times because buffers cross multiple jurisdictions, and so it's a little bit confusing in that regard, but again, it gives you a flavor of where we could concentrate dollars.
So Jeff, of the $37 million available to spend, you could spend 29.2 in Region 1.
Exactly, exactly. But that would draw from Region 2.
Right, that would be of the 37 million.
That's exactly right. Then we did it by counties, so you can see by county. Again, this is by heat map. And then kind of what we're going to do in the future, or kind of the analysis part of this is we overlaid all of the unified plan projects on. Now understand, this is just for demonstration purposes so that we can show you kind of how we're going to do this analysis. So we can go into the unified plan projects or any of our other lists, overlay the buffers on these and see, okay, what projects are out there, right? And so it's a pretty good way to take a look at it and do the analysis, and let's talk about that real quickly. So in the version on the web portal, there's I knew that would happen. This is going really well, by the way. So there's this flow chart, and what we're trying to show with this is just kind of what we're going to do and how we're going to engage our partners in terms of figuring out how to allocate these dollars. As you know, there's a lot of interest in these repurposed dollars. A lot of these went to local jurisdictions, and there is some ownership in these dollars. I think the federal this repurposing act basically said that dollars come back to the DOT, and the DOT has discretion on where to fund these projects. But we don't want to just make an arbitrary decision at the DOT level. We want to work with our partners to come up with a methodology to do this. So that first step, April 2016, now actually we're going to start engaging our MPO partners and our AOG partners and start going through a process. We think a good place to start is the TIF, shortlisted TIF prioritization projects that we developed last fall and we used for programming additional dollars in December. I believe it was December. Then we also went through with the Fast Lane Act and the Tiger Grant in terms of narrowing down a list of potential freight projects. And so we've got a short list of that, which I believe we showed you last month as well. So we're going to start there. And we're going to start with those two lists, go out to our partners and say, what are we missing? What's not on this list? And some of the potential criteria we could look at is project type. None of this has been determined yet because we want to sit down with our partners and go through this. You can use it on new or existing projects. Do we just do it on new projects? Do we put it on preservation projects, for example, choke point projects, freight projects, et cetera, et cetera? Project size is a consideration. right? There are TIF limitations. If it's an unfunded project right now, we have TIF as our matching dollars, so there are funding limitations on the amount of cash flow there is in TIF right now, so that is a potential criteria. And the other thing we want to do is we want to spend down the entire amount, right? So we don't want to necessarily, if you split it up on a whole bunch of little projects, you run the potential of leaving dollars out there. We don't want to do that. So we want to spend those dollars down, and we want to spend them first. So we have to be careful about that as well. Moving dollars around, federal for local is another option. Using congestion and delay, economic development, there's a whole bunch of criteria that we could use to do this. Our intent was to really use our MPO partners and our AOG partners to communicate with the intent or the priorities of local government, because we could spend a lot of time going out to local governments, because there's a lot of them that this involves. Having said that, we do believe that there are going to be instances where we do need to go out and we need to engage the local government partners, because they're going to be interested. And if they're interested, we're going to go out and engage them as well in the process. Schedule, you can see we need to take an action from the commission in September. So we'll develop a staff recommendation, bring it back to the commission. Then it needs to go into MPOs for TIP approval. Then the commission approves the STIP. And ultimately, in December of 2016, we need to give a list to our federal partners, and that list has to be correct. This is our one shot at this. If we get it wrong, too bad.
So it has to be obligated by December of this year?
The list has to be developed by this year, and then we have really till 2018.
To actually...
And I put, instead of obligate, I put advertise the projects. But yes, we have until 2018 to do that.
It doesn't have to be spent by 2018, just obligated by 2018. Okay. So we just have the project delivered.
Okay.
Or advertised.
And so this is posted on the web. You can get to both links. The story map's there. It will morph and change as we start doing this analysis, start our discussions with our local partners in our regions. And then we'll keep you updated. The intent is to come back every month and give you an update of where we are in this process.
And that might provide the impetus for input if folks want to come to commission meeting.
Absolutely, yeah.
Jeff, do you have an idea what percentage of the funds, of the 37 million was initially earmarked for local agency type of facility versus state?
Great question. No, we haven't done that. We were busy getting this done. That's the next step, but that's a great question. And we actually brought it up and talked about it, but we did not. We'll have that next time, but that's a great question. I just don't have the answer on it.
Yeah, in Moab, we saw the list of all of the projects, and it looked to me like about half of them listed, not half of the dollars, but about half of them listed had local names attached to them. So there's probably some, small percentage. I'm not even going to speculate. I was going to throw out a number, but I'm not even going to.
Please, yeah, I wasn't going to go there.
But as I went down the list, there were a lot of local areas, but of course they would be much smaller than, say, the statewide allocations.
So you can actually see all the names are on these polygons, and so in the list you can actually go through them if you want, and you can look at the names and rather than figure it out here. But yeah, so it's there. We just didn't sum it by jurisdiction, by local or whether it's state, but we'll do that as part of the analysis, just so we can get a flavor, right, of who's going to be really interested in this and what that. If it's 8 cents, there's one in here that's 8 cents, right? I don't think they're going to be too interested. 8 cents.
Yes. I didn't see that.
Yeah, some of these are quite small.
Must be Utah.
Probably.
That's how accurate we are.
Down to the 8 cents, yes. Any other questions?
How often do we get these earmarks?
No, this was the first I've seen this repurposing of earmarks. Because they really, Congress has stopped earmarking.
Right.
21, there wasn't earmarking. The FAST Act, there wasn't. And so this is, earmarks from previous bills that they're now trying to
clean
sweep
up
the corners,
Right.
empty the buckets of money, everything left over.
I'm glad you brought that up because earmarking is not a congressional word.
Very good. No other questions?
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Appreciate that. Bill, I think we have some program development opportunities here.
Sorry, Bill, I didn't clean that up.
Thank you, Commissioners. I know where I'm at. Okay, first item is under tab 5A, and these are funding adjustments at award and post-construction. We had 8 projects, 6 that were at award that are returning funds. I'm going to turn this back a page, get those listed up there. So here's the list of projects. We have SR 38, Francis to Diamond Bar.
SR 35?
Yes, SR 35, unless I'm not seeing good. I better put my glasses on. Yeah, SR 35, Francis to Diamond Bar Ranch. Then we have SR 99, Dugway to SR 36. This was a project that we'd combined together and advertised all at once. US 40, end of concrete to 400 North in Heber. US 89, State Park to Rock Cut passing lanes. SR 10, Junction. SR 29 to Huntington City limits. And SR 56, Nevada State line to mile point 22. So all these were the projects that we're making adjustments at award. Had 2 projects at post-construction. It's US 89, SR 193 to Carina Drive, and 110 North Street, Redwood Road to 110 East. Any questions on any of those projects?
What's the total of all these?
Let's see. A little over 16 million.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bob. So we'd like to, the proposal is request approval to make these adjustments as detailed.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second. Been moved and seconded that these adjustments be approved. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Okay, next item is 5A2. This is a Region 1 request, approval to add 1 million to the I-15 I-84, which is SR 240 to SR 102 project. This project is currently funded at 6 million, and it's planned to be bid out this month. This was recently added to the 2016 Pavement Rehabilitation Program, which was a combination of several different projects when this got put together. What occurred is the estimate for one of the segments was inadvertently left off when the project was programmed. Therefore, we're not adding for additional scope in this project. It's already included, but the dollar amount was left off when that was put together. If you turn the page back, and I'll slide it up so you can see the map. It's the project's limits, and the highlighted green area was the area that was left off from the budget that needed to be in there. The funding is available from the region's unprogrammed balance within their rehabilitation program, and so the request is approval to add 1 million to the I-15, I-84, 240 to SR 201, 102 project as detailed.
Move for approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we add this $1 million to this project. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, that's approved.
Okay, next item is 5A-2B. This is the SR 91, SR 13 to Manaway. Combination of projects. This is just an informational item. Region 1 and the Traffic and Safety Group are combining the SR 91, SR 13 to Manaway Pavement Preservation Project with the US 91 Mile Point 2.0 to 6.6 Concrete Median Barrier Project. We talked about this yesterday in the workshop, where this barrier project would be adding the HSIP funds to the pavement job and be done at the same time. Being the scope
in both of these is not changing, the funding's not changing. We just brought this forward for information. Any questions on that one?
Thank you, Joe.
Okay. Next item is 5A-3. This is a Region 2 request. They have some asset management projects they'd like to add funding to, as well as one with some scope and a new project as well. And I'll just go through each one of these. Before I do, just wanted to talk a little bit about the asset management projects and how these come forward. The region has a goal for maintaining its pavement by surface areas in order to achieve the level that they need to obtain. From 2016 to 2019, they're scheduled to complete 404 surface areas on average. The goal that is required for them to meet the condition for the pavements within the region is 375. And so in their current programs, they have enough surface areas that they're covering that the funding that they're using for this would not impact the overall pavement condition. So the first one is item A, which is an overhead signs project on I-80 and I-215. It's currently funded at $4 million, and the request would add $3 million. The balance is in the preservation program, the funding for this, and the purpose would be to allow for an increase of the number of signs that could be completed, as well as replacing a few sign structures that are in poor shape. The second project is item B. It's I-215 substandard barrier replacement project. The scope on this project is to replace substandard barrier and disrepair along I-215 on the east side. Currently, this is funded at $2 million. This request is to add an additional $2.5 million, which would allow them to increase the amount of barrier that they could take care of, which is needed. The third project is item C. This is I-215 Knutson Corner Bridge Preservation. This is currently funded just under $4.7 million. This request would add $4 million to this project, which is available from their rehabilitation program. The current scope on this project is to do bridge repair on I-215 on the east side at 6200 South. The structures in the main line also need to be done, and there's not enough funding to do it in this current year. They believe there's some efficiencies in doing them all at the same time, and Structures does have this in their plan, but their funding's out too far. So the region would like to do this now and do it all at the same time, using this asset management funding that is available in their pavement program, with the idea that in the future, that when the Structures monies come, it would reimburse that pavement program at that time. Item D is I-84 Hannaford to Echo Pipe Project. This project is currently funded at $2 million, and this request would add $500,000 to the project, which also is available in the rehabilitation program. The additional funding, this is the one where the project limits could be expanded to Castle Rock and include additional culverts on I-80 as I-84 turns it into I-80 at Echo Junction. The work would include rehabilitation of 6 additional culverts and 4 large diameter culverts. And the last one is a new project that they're recommending: construct a snow fence in various locations along I-80, and the funding is also available in the preservation program. Well, that's a lot of projects I just talked about. Any questions on any one of those?
On section A, you had that this will pay for the funding allowed for increase in the number of signs. Where do you put in extra signs? Where are the locations?
These are, if I'm not mistaken,
these are signs that are already existing. These are the big overhead signs.
Okay.
And if you'll notice, we have a lot of those signs that were installed back with the original I-15 job. They're all peeling away. And so this is replacing those big overheads, right, Brian?
Yeah, and Commissioner, yesterday in our presentation, we showed you a couple of the sign structures along I-80 that we're having problems with, that are rusted out. We got into this project, and and got up to look at the connections, and the connections are so rusted out that we can't put signs back, so we think we're gonna have to replace 2 of those sign structures.
So no new signs,
So
right,
you're not
Brian?
adding new
Just
signs?
replacing
We're
existing?
increasing the scope of adding additional signs, and we're gonna have to replace a
Replacing the
couple of
structures
signs.
themselves.
Yep.
Right.
In this replacement, are we going to come up with some corrosion resistant fastening means so that we don't have to face the corrosion problem again in the future?
Let's hope so.
We won't use a, Commissioner, we won't use a truss structure like we had before. They'll be cantilever structures like we see in the modern, so they're all galvanized and then we don't have these issues.
Yeah, these current structures that we're replacing are probably 50 years old. They're the old steel. And,
Were they originally galvanized and it just simply nature gets it eventually, or?
I don't think so.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
I make a motion that we approve it.
All 5 of them?
Uh-huh.
Second?
Been moved and seconded that we approve these 5 requests. I think all of the funding comes out of the rehabilitation,
Preservation and Rehabilitation
Yeah.
Program. for-
preservation and rehabilitation, right?
Correct.
For the region. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Go to work, Brian.
The next item is 5A-4. This is a Dixie MPO tip amendment. The Dixie MPO Executive Council voted on March 16th to amend the Dixie Transportation Improvement Plan by changing the scope of River Road, say that slowly, Fort Pierce to Brigham Project to instead do a section which is further north, which is River Road, Riverside Drive to 1450 South. If you look, I've got a map of this location. So you can see the original project was in the yellow, and they're recommending to move their funding to where the green is. Okay, it's back. The amendment also included programming an additional $1.1 million of small urban Dixie MPO funds, as well as their match on this project, and moving the currently funded, the program funding from 2017 to 2019. These changes included a total program amount of just over $3.5 million. The project that they're not doing now, St. George City has committed to build that with their own funding. So we'd like to seek approval to change the scope of work and funding on the River Road, Riverside Drive to 1450 South project as detailed.
You have a lot of information in it.
Yeah, this says it's information.
Right.
Release, you know.
That should be for approval because it needs to be a change on the step.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
that's probably.
Yeah, that's incorrect on the
Yeah.
checkbox there.
Yeah, I have one question though. If the cost overruns are a little more, is St. George City still committed to build a southern section?
Yes. That's what the Jerry estimates is.
Okay.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we approve this addition.
Mr. Chair,
Please.
can I ask kind of a procedural question? If we've noticed this as information only, can you take an action to approve it?
With the correction at the same time.
Well,
Perhaps the motion should include
Yeah.
the correction of the fact sheet. How about that?
Yes.
okay.
Let's have a motion that includes the correction that this is for.
It's coming from legal counsel, so make that correction.
I don't think we're
Notice-
paying
I don't
for
think that
legal
helps.
services, we're not gonna put that on.
Notice, however, that it does say, even though the X is on the wrong line, right below that, it says motion needed for approval.
Yes.
So it's very clear that this was for approval, not just for information only.
And that's what I'm
It was
noticing.
typographical error.
Yeah.
So you can say that in your motion.
I move we approve. I don't think we need to say anything. The less we say about it, the better off.
Good.
I still second the motion.
Been moved and seconded then that this be approved. Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Okay, next item is 5B. During last month's commission meeting, we approved 2 SIB loans, which used up the remaining balance of the SIB funding that was available. We had a request that we would bring back to the commission just an update on what the balance would be like into the future. And so I'm going to scroll down. So what I have here is, first of all, just the infrastructure balance sheet. That just shows the amount of funding that came into the SIB, as well as the uncommitted balance that's available, and all those that have loans and those that have finished loans. And then the second page is the one that's going to answer the question. And so what this is a timeline with the repayment schedule of each of those that have loans out so far. And so if you look on the right-hand side of the column, you can see the cumulative total that comes back into the SIB, and then on the left-hand side is the date that occurs. And so starting in May this year, Town of Vineyard has a payment of $1.8 million that will come back, and by May of next year, we'll have just under $4 million, and then you see the growth of that as we go through time.
Have we had anybody that hasn't paid back their loan?
No.
One of the things that I heard in talking with Region 3 is that it appears as though Vineyard has finally come to terms with the railroad to actually move that railroad spur along Geneva, that will be done so that we can move forward with the expansion of Geneva, and that is being completed now. And I understand that, with the exception of maybe an I and a T that needs to be taken care of, that's a done deal, and Vineyard is moving forward with that $16 million loan that's sitting out there. So that's what I heard just this week.
Can I just clarify one?
Please.
The Vineyard is, yes, moving forward with that. The widening of Geneva Road, it does allow us to widen Geneva Road. We don't have plans
We don't have
right now
funding.
or the
We don't have
funding.
a program. Right.
Yeah. Just to clarify.
One of the items that was discussed yesterday on that, I forget which list it was, but it's the $6 million project was to straighten out Geneva at 4th South. Once that railroad spur disappears, then we can get rid of that kind of funny angle 4th South there in Orem. And that was I think a $6 million project that we talked about yesterday.
It couldn't happen if
this wasn't done.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Questions?
Kind of tongue-in-cheek, loans approved but not dispersed, pending execution. I was wondering who had to give up their life.
I think that's just isn't
Does
that a
that
legal
mean
term?
it's not signed yet?
Yes. Yeah. So it's approved here, but it hasn't actually they haven't been given the money yet. They haven't followed the rest of the process to get that happen.
They need to execute the loan documents.
There's a lot of work that goes on. You may think that this is the end of the day when you make your approval, but Bill's shop has a lot, and Becky's shop does a lot of work to make these happen.
We'll add pending loan documents.
Execution of documents.
Yeah.
Documents. Okay.
We'll do that. It does stop a little short, right?
Any questions about the bank and its loan? And we had requested this balance sheet to get us up to date on where we are.
Mr. Chair, I think it would be good for the commission to know that if we did have a request, if you had a request from another city or another jurisdiction for the loan fund, you could capitalize it through existing funding. So the commission has the ability to put money in there to loan out in the future if you chose.
Okay. Yes, thank you. We had talked about that earlier in the week. Thank you for. Any questions about what Shane just said? If we needed to, we could actually add to it.
Okay, thank you.
Bill, thank you very much. We're moving through this pretty quickly. Carlos, anytime you need to leave. Carlos is speaking at the governor's economic summit here in about an hour. So shortly he will be leaving us on the run to get up there to get set up. See, Lyle, I think we're to the request for corridor preservation funds, item number 6.
Notice I'm wearing my own suit today. I feel so pretty. All right. We are on item 6 for a request for use of corridor preservation funds.
Keep going, I'll see what I find.
So let's go over the Marta Dilray corridor preservation budget status first. Our balance forward from last time was $12.6 million. We received a fund reimbursement or payback from the Mountain View corridor in the amount of $6.6 million. Additionally, in the first quarter, we received $1.8 million in revenue from rental revenues and the motor vehicle rental tax. And we also have $8 million worth of purchases that you've previously obligated funds for that you can see there. We talked about most of those last month in Moab. In fact, I believe we talked about all of them. So the fund balance, when all those numbers are netted out, is $12.9 million. The next section there is funds that you've previously obligated, but we have not yet closed on the properties yet. And if you'll recall, last month we had upwards of 10 or 11 properties that you obligated funds for, and we're hot on the trail of getting those things closed. That amount totals $9.1 million, which leaves us today with an unobligated fund balance of $3.8 million. Do you have any questions about anything that's on that upper 2/3 of the budget? Okay.
Thank you.
So then, with your permission, I'll direct you to item 6A, which is one of 2 applications that we're going to put in front of you today for a recommendation and approval. And the first one is a property owned by the LDS Church on the US 89 corridor in Fruit Heights, and it's on the corner of US 89 and 400 North. It's the northeast corner if you look at the map, and we've been dealing with the church and this property for quite some time. It's the one in the, what are we going to call that, fluorescent yellow? Sure. And we've been dealing with them for several years, and the ambiguity that we've been trying to resolve is whether or not there is actually access onto 400 North. And that ambiguity was cleared up. They do and would, in the way that it's configured today, they would have access. And so we went forward, got an appraisal. The land was appraised for $240,000. It's zoned medium density residential. In reality, it would probably end up being a gas station. And so the total value there is $240,000, and we reviewed it in the Corridor Preservation Advisory Council, and I come to you today with an affirmative recommendation and request for you to authorize and obligate the $240,000 so that we can purchase that property. And just as a quick aside, the blue properties are properties that we have already acquired in preservation, and that the LDS Church piece is the last part of the southbound off-ramp for a future interchange there at 400 North and US 89.
We own this?
We own all the blue pieces, and we do not own that one. We talk with those people every year, and they're just not ready to move.
Okay.
They're fine being where they're at.
Right. So we're not quite there yet.
No.
Move for approval on purchase of the LDS property.
Second motion.
Moved and seconded that this property be approved for purchase. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Before you go to the next item,
Please.
it looks to me like part of the yellow will be used for the interchange, but part may not. What do you do with that? I'm back to my little project about all these little bits and pieces that
Well,
we
that-
just
yeah.
turn around and sell it, or will you use it all?
Not that one. That will be the infield between the off-ramp and the throughway. And then you'll have 400 north going across, so it'll be that part you see when you're getting off the freeway and you look to the left, you see the highway over there and beautifully landscaped.
That's where we put the goats?
Part of your presentation. Most likely used for water detention, retention types of things.
Make a good goat pasture.
Maybe just also to remind the commission, you funded this project. It's in 19 and 20, Chris, 20. So this will have a fairly fast payback to the fund once we hit those years in which you had funded the construction of this project.
What was the total payback for 89? It was 30 plus?
Yeah, million.
Yeah, it's about 30 million. We talked about that the other day.
This was the project that environmental approved in '95. This was the project that was the impetus behind the creation of the Corridor Preservation Fund. This is the reason that it was created, is because we had a completed environmental document, we didn't have money to build it, and the residents were feeling trapped.
Move on to 6B.
Yeah, I think we did.
You did approve it.
Okay, if I can direct your attention now to the tab 6B. It's a protected purchase of a property owned by a gentleman by the name of William Compton. It is on the West Davis corridor in the preferred alignment at 4220 West, 1800 North in West Point. It's vacant land. The property is 9.5 acres, and as you can see on the map, and then if you can go to the second one as well, please. You can see that Mr. Compton owns, if you extend that pie shape further west and out, that 9.5 acres is maybe 1/4 of his total ownership there. He owns everything, that west part out to complete that pie wedge. And he found out through his real estate agent, somebody else who's represented other property owners in this corridor. And when it came to his attention, he said, well, let's go ahead and sell it. So it's not, this is one of the rare opportunities that we have to purchase property in its raw, vacant state, not subject to imminent development, just buying bare ground and holding it. And that's why the property is valued at $43,000 an acre. He hasn't entitled it. He hasn't gone to the city and asked for the ability to rezone it, upzone it, subdivide it, or anything like that. So land was appraised for $408,000. The property owner is perfectly fine with it. He has that property to the west that where he can he can engage in his profit-backed expectations and go forward from there. So we reviewed this in the Corridor Preservation Advisory Council, and we come to you with a favorable recommendation to obligate funding in the amount of $408,500.
Is that a land strip on top of that?
I was just looking at it.
Oh, no, that's a canal.
Alongside? No.
That's a canal. And the reason why we're purchasing the property to the left, or to the right, to the east, is because there's no access to it because of once the highway is there, and because of that canal and all the property owners there to the south, that it's an uneconomic remnant that we would be obligated to offer to buy during the project.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we approve the purchase of this property. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Both of them have been approved, Lyle.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
So I believe item number 7 now, we have a study update on our Wasatch Front Central Corridor. This is from What, in north Utah County to southern Davis County.
Correct.
So please, thank you, Lisa, for being here.
So, thank you, Commissioners, for giving me a few minutes to update you on where we're at with the study. As you know, the study is a joint venture between UDOT, UTA, WFRC, and Mountain Land Association of Governments. In addition, we do have $820,000 of Tiger Grant funds that were given to us through FHWA. We've been here in the past and presented what the challenges that we were looking for into the future. As we've looked at those challenges more and more, and it's really boiled down to we're going to have a lot more people along this corridor and along the Wasatch Front. We don't have a lot of space. We're geographically constrained by mountains and lakes, but we are going to have a lot more travel as we get those additional, the added population along the Wasatch Front. As we looked at those challenges, you've seen these study goals before. We came up with these goals to measure the solutions that we come to against improve safety, increase person throughput, improve travel time reliability, increase accessibility to jobs and education, improve air quality, improve economic outcomes, reduce household transportation costs, and improve mode balance are the goals that we'll be measuring our outcomes against. As we've gone through the study process, we've gone through developing the goals and the initial project stages. Right now, we're in the process of developing and analyzing the initial scenarios. We're doing outreach to various groups as we go through this. We've met with the agency executives and updated them on what the study is doing, as well as recently we went out to local governments, and I'll talk about that more a little bit later. As we've developed our initial scenarios, we put them on a transportation travel demand spectrum that at one very far end, we're managing the demand. On the other end, we are meeting demand fully, and as you can see from this graphic, the scenarios, if that line in the center is kind of a balance between managing demand and meeting demand, the scenarios split on either side of it. The first scenario closer towards that balance point, and then scenario 2 moving further towards managing demand, and scenario 3 moving towards meeting demand. And within each of those scenarios, we have elements that would build more or manage our existing system. And then we have some elements that are looking to change people's behavior. Some of the elements that are included in these are double tracking and electrifying front runner, as well as adding additional front runner stations. Paper use, mobility kiosks. The way we like to describe this is like a red box for transportation. So say you rode front runner downtown, but once you got downtown, some of the places you wanted to go were a little further than you wanted to walk. You could go to one of these kiosks, either rent an electric car for a few hours, rent a bike, rent a motor scooter. But it's a kiosk where you can rent a piece of transportation to get you where you want to go for just a few hours or for a day or something. Additionally, we're looking at subsidizing transit fares to either reduce or make those fares free. Improved active transportation networks, including what we're terming a cycle superhighway. It's also been called a cycle autobahn, which allows the cyclists that are specifically wanting to commute to be away from vehicles, away from people that may be on trails, and able to make their commute in a safe environment separated from some of those other modes. As I said, we recently reached out to the local government elected officials and some of their technical staff. On March 29th, we did several workshops, one down in Draper City for those near the south end of the corridor, and one in South Salt Lake for those more towards the north end of the corridor. We got some very good feedback from those local governments and had some very good discussions with them. A lot of ideas that now we're taking back, seeing how we can incorporate them, or if they've already fit into some of the scenarios that we're looking at. But that's a basic update of where we're at with the study and what's going on. Are there any questions?
Well, the fact that UTAs and doing distance-based fares impact any of this?
We're looking at that. We're not sure how it's going to impact yet, but it may.
Is that a final decision that they have made to not have distance-based fares?
I'm not sure if it's final or not yet.
I just heard a little news spiel on it this morning as I was coming to work, coming to the meeting, and I just.
Commissioner McConkey may have been in that meeting.
It's not decided yet. Board meeting next week.
Okay.
So it's not a done deal what the news is reporting?
I don't know what the news has been saying.
Well, all I heard on the news was that it was being considered, and they didn't think that it would impact the revenues that much, and that's really all they said. They didn't say one way or the other whether it was yes or no.
I think Mr. Davison may have better information.
He said it was dropped.
The new mayor has a different feeling about this than the old mayor had. I know that for sure. That might have something to do with it.
So stay tuned, Rob.
You know, Mr. Chairman, I
It's
think.
either dropped or hasn't been dropped, one or the other, I guess.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, in terms of the study that Lisa's, helping facilitate here, it's, I hope when you saw those goals, you had an idea. This is quite different than a lot of the studies we've done in the past.
Yeah, it's very comprehensive.
It's very comprehensive. It's recognizing that this next long-range plan for the most important corridor in the state is going to probably be quite different than we've had in the past. You've approved some short-term fixes that we're going to work on right now. The extra lane southbound, working on the interchanges and some other operational things. But this is going to be something quite different in your design horizon 2040?
2050.
2050. So it's going to be interesting how this evolves. So we're going to want to keep the commission involved.
Right.
Okay.
I particularly want to know how you're going to change behavior. That's the hardest thing.
We're looking at a few things. One of them that you use incentives and almost gaming to get people to want to do things differently. So like one of the examples that we use is on your power bill, how it shows how you compare to your neighbors in the use of power. And you always want to try and beat your neighbor. So things, apps and those kinds of things that can encourage people and incentivize people to do things a little bit differently. Change their VMT or reducing their VMT by using transit more, some of those kinds of things.
Oh, as opposed to changing laws.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
We're right now we're
Important difference.
yeah, right now we're looking more towards some of those carrot things rather than sticks that say no, people with odd numbers license plates can't drive on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We're trying not to look at those kinds of things, looking at things that'll make people make their choices to change behavior rather than telling them they have to change behavior.
Incentivizing behavioral change
Yeah.
instead of penalizing
Okay.
for right now.
That's a positive reinforcement.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Though I do like the license plate. Never mind.
Any other questions or comments?
No, it's
for Lisa?
interesting, especially the bicycle Audubon.
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll be back probably towards the end of the summer, August timeframe, to update you on kind of some of the things that we're looking at moving forward into the final recommendation package as well. So,
When are you expected to make that final recommendation, by the end of the year?
by the end of the year.
Okay. All right, we look forward to a further report from you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, commissioners.
Over to the point now, item 8, where we share some information. We welcome back Ivan from his sojourn, and would give us a little report on where you've been, and welcome back, and then bring us up to date on what's happening around here. Ivan, welcome back.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, commissioners. And yes, I was away on a 6 months assignment, but I really never left Salt Lake City. I was really back in my office the whole time with my door locked. I just wasn't allowed to come out and interact with you guys here. So it's good to be back. It's good to be out of that jail, and I'm excited to be back. I do want to thank Brigitte. She it was a little unfair to me to. She's only been with us for 3 months when I took on this assignment, so it was a little unfair for me to kind of put her in charge that soon after being here, but she certainly lived up to the task and did a great job, so thank you, Brigitte. Yeah. So if anything, now you know her very well, and she's proven to be.
We do, and we appreciate her very much.
Definitely. So thank you very much, Brigitte, and thank you so much for helping her along and being so nice to her. Couple of things real quick to bring to your attention here. What the Federal Highway Administration has a performance year that runs from June through the end of May. So in preparation for that, one of the things we do is start developing our what we call a unit plan and our strategic plan. So to do that, we do a risk assessment. We do that in conjunction with UDOT. So we got that done, and some of the items that we identify at risk are more maybe internal to Federal Highways. We have some new people that have taken over new programs, so civil rights and right-of-way items may rise to the top just because we have newer people in the office taking on those programs. Other items may rise up in risk just because we have new regulations and new requirements that we UDOT or Federal Highways may not be familiar with, so some of those items rise. And I think some of those may include this. There's some new size and weight requirements that come into play, so that was a risk area. Some air quality standards are coming into play also that may result in a risk area. So we identified those, and then usually what we do, we'll come up with ways to mitigate that risk through training and clarification and things like that. We identify activities to mitigate that risk. So that was the big event for us, just completing our risk assessment. Another item of your interest that would be of interest to the commission is the Federal Highways is having a regional truck parking meetings. Basically, I don't know if you're aware of Jason's Law, but back in, I think it was 2009, a young truck driver, he was like 35 years old, was shot. He had pulled over, he couldn't find a place to park his truck. He had pulled over in an abandoned gas station. He was shot in somebody he had $7 in his pocket. That's basically what the assassin got away with. So that event brought to the attention the need to provide additional parking for truckers. And so ever since then, there's been an effort DOT-wide and within the states to identify areas where we could provide additional parking. So there's going to be 4 regional truck meetings, and the first one will be held here in Salt Lake City on June 8th. That's all I know at this time. I don't know beyond that who's going to be here and who's going to be involved in all that. But once we get those additional details, we'll provide them to you and to the commission, so you know. But again, the purpose is to kind of take a look and see what the truck parking needs are from a regional perspective.
We're also going to start a statewide truck parking study as well, using some of our freight money and try to evaluate our needs here locally as well.
So, and again, that's scheduled for June 8th right now. Another big event going on with Federal Highways, MAP 21 requires us to establish rulemaking for performance, transportation performance measures. So right now, let's see, there's 6 of them that we have to do. We have published 2 of them, final rules. There's still, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 5 other ones have been out in the review. We established the proposed rulemaking. And the last one is on system performance measures, and that one will be coming out soon. That will be the last rulemaking or proposed rulemaking on those performance measures. So that'll be coming out soon. That'll be the last one. On March 15th, we published the final rule on the Highway Safety Improvement Program, so that establishes some performance measures for that. Let's see. Finally, we've been now 5 months into the FAST Act. And so we're getting a lot of guidance and policy papers out. Also, a big part of the FAST Act was there's several grants out there, grant programs that are out there. So the Tiger program, that one comes to an end. The applications are due April 29. April 29. The other ones, two other grant programs that were recently we issued a policy on, or we issued a notice for solicitation, and I'll have to read. It's called the Advanced Transportation and Congestion Management Technologies Deployment Grant. And then the other one, okay, and for that one, there's $60 million available, and up to each grant can be up to $12 million. And then the other one is the Surface Transportation System Funding Alternatives Grant, and that's where a state can study, get a grant to study kind of user-based fees instead of a fee. For example, if you want to keep track of how many miles some are driven and then charge a fee for that amount. So it's just allows states to explore different funding mechanisms for transportation. And so that's another, and for that one there's up to $15 million available this year, and then after that is $20 million each year through 2020. So, and those, let's see, so those are two that were just, we just came up with those two grants, so the states can apply for those grants if they're interested. So I can go forever because we have a bunch of other policies and guides that came out, but I don't think I need to take up all your time. So with that, are there any questions on any of the items that I mentioned?
Didn't we decide to apply for one of those grants, wasn't it?
We applied for Tiger, and then we submitted that.
We're applying for Tiger. It's
applying
due
for
at the end of the month, and
Fast
yesterday
lane.
there was the deadline for Fast Lane, and we submitted two Fast Lane projects
I thought we had discussed that.
Yeah, those are the three projects we talked about in Moab.
Right.
If we got one of those, we'd have to adjust some funding.
Yeah, I didn't mention fast lane because that one, the deadline was
yesterday.
Yesterday, actually. So
We
but
beat
you
it by
did-
2 hours.
yeah, beat it by 2 hours. There you go.
Good.
Wasn't nervous at all.
Yeah, so. Well,
Anything else?
When do you say they're awarded?
oh, when will, I don't know. I don't know when the award announcements are made. They did it in the summer? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we're just putting up the panels that are going to start ranking them and stuff, so it'll be a while.
Oh, that's actually pretty quick then.
Quicker than that.
Yeah, this is like the 8th Tiger round, so we're getting pretty good at it by now. The first couple of years were pretty tough, but we're getting pretty good. Mhm.
Here in Tiger grants.
It sounds corrupt.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Good to have you back.
Thank you.
Well, let's have our committee report from the commission. We'll start down here with Gail.
None, but the Joint Highway Committee meets next week. I've given each of you my business card. They've asked me to talk on behalf of the commission. So I want to talk about you guys.
So instead of talking on behalf of, you're going to talk about.
I don't think a lot of the mayors and county people really know who you are. So I will make up something, or you can send me something. Yeah, I can pull some stuff off the internet, but if you prefer me to say something else, let me know.
Mr. Council, I would like to take a fifth on that. If you are still looking for me.
That's all.
All right, thank you very much, Dan.
Well, the local government visits are about halfway completed now. Like UDOT staff, I've attended several of those. They'll go through the rest of this month and into end of May. And it's interesting the relationship between UDOT and these local governments seems to be growing, and there's more interest in each one of these. There's more people show up, and some of them get pretty exciting. It's pretty good information. I've enjoyed it a lot. My UTA committee meetings, I've had some of them this week. I'll have some more next. Transcom is next week. I'll attend that, and the UTA board meeting is on the 27th. So I'll have something to report on those next. I know that we are now in the high gear since the legislature's over with to address hiring a CEO.
Oh,
for
is
UTA.
there a timeline on that?
No timeline, but the chairman has put it back on the front burner. Now, they have their executive meeting next Monday, and I'm assuming, I don't attend that meeting, but I'm assuming that Mr. Burton will have a plan that will come out of that meeting with the executive committee, what they're gonna do. And they'll bring us up to date on that in our board meeting. That's my report.
All right, thank you. Megan?
No, I just have questions, but my committee didn't meet.
All right. Wayne?
The Corridor Preservation Advisory Council met last week,
Right.
and we reviewed the two items that we acted on here today.
Thank you. Nadia?
I had a meeting with the D-Tech in which they talked about the TIC amendment. We discussed a number of it before today. And also with the special meeting with the CIB, they talked about set aside infrastructure money that we have 56 million to swap with the UDOT because the legislature appropriated that money, so we have access to that immediately without violating the rules of the CIB committee.
Okay.
More
on that, Shane?
No, it's taken some work to figure out how to spend that money. What happened is they took TIF and they said, here's CIB, use TIF, and CIB gave back mineral lease fund to replace TIF. And now we have to make sure we spend that mineral lease fund in mineral lease counties. We're able to do that. Shouldn't be a problem. I don't think our program managers and our regions are even going to notice there's a different funding mechanism. But we have enough out in the basin that it worked pretty well. We had to pull in Box Elder County, and Box Elder is apparently eligible for mineral lease funds, so it worked out okay.
All right.
The Joint Highway Committee is in St. George next Friday. If either one of you want to attend, I think you could do that if you want to.
You gonna have food?
No food.
I'm not coming.
They do have snacks.
Now,
Sorry.
sorry.
Any other comments? My committee report is I was with Wayne at the Corridor Preservation meeting. Megan?
Well, back to the CIB money, is this in response to the 53 million?
Yes. It's 26 in
27.
17 and 27 in 18. Yeah, and for us, it's all it is they took TIF right off the top and they put real mineral lease right back in. And so for us, we can get to say, other than we're going to use it in these counties, that's all we've got to say with that.
It gives the CIB better legal jurisdiction to use the money rather than worry about that if some other project is not entitled to it.
So there was a question about how the money was done. You said it gave you better legal?
Yes.
Not CIB, not
CIB, yeah.
Not us?
Not us.
No, not
Nope.
you, though.
Nope.
But it's just a swap of the money, 100% exact without 50% off in the past of it. No.
From the mineral leases, which are way down.
Right. But they take off the top of the mineral lease fund, 26 one year and 27 the next.
Regardless.
Regardless. Yep.
Shane, is there any chance that CIB money would be available to Kane County or those areas down there, the access roads to Escalante Staircase, National Monument?
I'm not sure. I was talking to Gail, I think, and I was letting her.
The federal mineral lease law says that the money is to be prioritized to be used in the government entities to meet social and economic impacts resulting from the development of the hydrocarbons. And so, if you don't have impacts from development of hydrocarbons, unless all of the needs are taken care of, that money is supposed to be used exclusively for those areas.
So how does Box Elder fit in?
I'm not sure. There's a person that manages the fund. Box Elder has used money in the past from the from mineral lease, and so we asked them specifically, does this qualify? And they said yes. And so we put. Where is Bill? How much did we put out there? It's 18 million or something like that, Bob? Out in Box Elder, you remember? It's a chunk of change. There was Chris has a project up in Box Elder that we swapped it with. So that's one thing that's the only place that there's still a question on our part. The person that manages the program said that it's okay. I do want to follow up after some conversations with Commissioner Captain yesterday about whether, just to make sure that we're covered out in Box Elder. The rest of the money is going to Uwina and Duchesne, so there's no problem at all there. But it's just, there's a little bit out in Box Elder.
Just a question about Box Elder County.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
You bet.
Any further discussion or items to be brought before us? I guess our next meeting is May 12th and 13th in Tooele. Part of that will include David Burton's visit to give us the annual report from UTA. And he has agreed to be there in our Tooele meeting in May. And then we have June in Logan. And then, of course, nothing in July, and we'll pick it up from there. So our next two meetings, please note those, Tooele and then Logan.
Mr. Chair, any requests on tour in Tooele? Anything that the commission wants to see specifically? I think Brian has a plan, but we just finished up Main Street. Where's Brian?
Yeah, some of the highlights will be Tooele Main Street. We wanted to take a look at Grantsville Main Street. Obviously, probably Mid-Valley Highway discussion again.
I was going to say that the Mid-Valley Highway probably will be there.
And then
Also, you mentioned yesterday, I think, Brian, that we may go out and look at that proposed road that will parallel I-80 coming around the mountain there.
Correct.
Coming around?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Very good.
They have a nurse strip out there.
Look at
Tooele?
those
We have an
details.
airport out there.
I think so. Bill? Where's Bill? Is there an airstrip in Tooele?
Yeah.
I will entertain a motion.
Well, one second. Is there any chance we could fly to Duchesne? Or fly in the Pikes and then?
The Duchesne tour is going to be, I think right now is we're going to meet in Heber.
Oh.
And it's just going to be one day, and we're going to drive out to Duchesne, and the tour will be the drive out, meet in Duchesne, and then come back to Heber and disperse from there.
Oh, okay.
There's really not a lot of
So that'll be a
opportunities.
one day rather than two?
Right now, that's the plan, I think.
So-
Heather, is that
So
what you remember?
technically, we would meet in Heber on the 11th?
correct? Terry's still working out the details of that, but if you
Keep both days available, the 11th and the 12th, just in case.
yeah. But right now, that's the plan.
I just,
Just have one
Duchesne's a suburb of Heber?
Well, if you, yes, it is actually.
Heber's a subdivision of Duchesne.
63 miles.
There's a,
Third of the way to Burlington.
hotels
I'm
in
not even
Duchesne
following your
are hard to come by.
Oh, okay.
And the tour that Terry wants to take on is, take you all on is US 40 down in
40
Daniels
anyway.
Oh,
Canyon.
okay, that makes sense.
So
It's
we would
just-
end up in Heber if we met in Duchesne. So we're just
So
gonna meet,
instead, we're gonna start in Heber.
yep. And end in Heber.
Looking back on my thoughts about that meeting in Heber the other night, they're talking about airport problem. Is that airport ours or is that private held and owned by the city?
No, that's
It's-
us.
It's still under us.
They're talking about lengthening that.
They are.
Yeah, for the big jets.
It's right up only owns one airport. I think they've moved.
Well, we don't own it, but it still falls under the jurisdiction of the fund that we manage.
Right.
Yes.
It's under the
Thank you.
umbrella.
Yeah.
Kind of a busy airport.
Yeah, they have a I'm familiar with the Heber Airport. Yeah, there's some problems, but for the bigger jets, they want to,
Extend the runway.
yeah, there's a problem with the mount at one end and it's never long. It's going to be. They've talked about this quite a bit.
It'd be like landing in the old Hong Kong airport. Right
In between the
in between the
buildings.
buildings.
I've done that.
San Diego's much removed from that.
Yeah.
But that actually has been a hot topic in Summit County, especially during the film festival.
The Heber Airport.
Yeah, because of the jets coming in. I'm not on them, I see them though. Okay, that's all I have.
All right.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Adjourn.
We're out of here.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.